Squeeze you up a little bit. Heartbreak. How to talk about heartbreak without feeling heartbreak. It's ironic, I'm just looking at my little GoPro stand here and it's completely cracked. Speaking of broken, I did not know that. So as most of you know, I went through a divorce this past year. The divorce was officialized in March, I think March 2nd, 2020. I've since been in other relationships, and have since learned a lot about myself. Even though I made the decision to leave my past partner, my now ex-wife, I still experienced a lot of heartbreak around it, because I really did think for a time that we were going to be together forever. And even though I had to make the really, like, I don't even know what word for it, blank choice to leave, still experienced heartbreak. And I have since experienced heartbreak, and many times in the past experienced heartbreak. So many times. It's not normally how I drink, but my mouth is pursed and I need some water. That kind of tickles. Kind of feels good. Anyhow, how to talk about heartbreak. I guess the easy way would be to say, hey, check out my book. I have a whole chapter about it, and I could just not talk about it right now and not risk breaking down. But if I do cry, it's a good thing. It took me a long time to accept that part. The first time I ever had my heart broken was the first person I ever dated in high school. We dated for 3 years. My first love. It was a wild relationship, and I learned a lot. I moved to college, and she moved to college as well, separate, for hours away. And we thought we'd be okay, and then pretty quickly realized we wouldn't. And it was a mutual decision ultimately to end things. But we did the old, okay, we'll be friends, and of course we'll be friends. We love each other. I remember talking to her the next day, and she said, it's one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. She said, we can't just go from being in love and dating to being friends the next day. We need space. And that was when the heartbreak kicked in. Because even though it was a mutual thing and we knew it wasn't going to work, not having her in my life was devastating. I don't remember this as well as my mom did, but she said I was just completely wrecked over it. I think I kind of blanked it out a little bit. Tried to, I was in school trying to party a lot and kind of push it down and stay busy and distracted, but I was destroyed and it sucked. And then I got into another relationship in college, 2 years, someone I also love very dearly. We went through a lot together, and then when I moved to New York City, we broke up, and there's a whole story behind it, of course, as you can imagine. But that was also very heartbreaking. And then I had a best friend that I fell in love with, and we were living together, and we tried to make it work, but it didn't work, and she didn't want to be together, and I did. And she was also like, before that, when I was like in love with her and hadn't told her yet, she was dating someone I was super close to, and it was just crushing. I remember seeing them together, and like I would go home and just like get the guitar and start singing, but it would turn into me like screaming, and like my hands like smacking the guitar, bleeding, and just like crying, and just a total mess. That was the first time I saw the power of music really in that way, to express yourself and to get it out, because it was so sad, but also it felt good to sing and scream and just let it loose. So I guess the theme here is that I've gone through a lot of heartbreak, and it took me a long time to figure out how to make sense of heartbreak in a way that now I'm like, bring it on. I've had my heart stomped on, destroyed, burned. I've broken other people's hearts. I'm not a victim here in any regard, but I've had my heart destroyed many times. And one thing I've come to realize is there's a beauty in heartbreak that's completely empowering, because when we open ourselves up, this is what often happens. Somebody falls in love with someone, they open themselves up, they're vulnerable, and things are going well, and they feel this love, and it's so beautiful, and they're together, and then one day they get dumped, or they found out the person cheated on them, and their heart is completely broken, and they are pissed and upset and sad and devastated and grieving, and all the things you could ever imagine feeling, as I'm sure everyone here has felt. And then they decide, this not always but often, they decide, you know what, I'm never going to let my heart open again, because that person completely destroyed me, and that depression that I went through, those months of sadness and aloneness, and maybe in some cases suicide, like all the things that come out, that drive people nuts and sad and depressed and isolate and all, and overeat and not take care of themselves. They don't want to go through that again, so they close their heart off, and then they're safe in this space where their heart's closed, their heart's protected, and they don't have to worry about that. Now I get that, I really do. But what I've come to see is there's a beautiful side on the other side. When you open your heart up and you make it vulnerable, there is a chance that it can get crushed. But when you've survived heartbreak enough and you've made it out on the other side, well then, I'm speaking to myself, I welcome heartbreak. Because I'm not afraid to have my heart broken, because I've learned to be completely present with what I have in those moments. There's been times when I've been with people who it's like, I've had to learn, because things can go away, because life is impermanent, because things are always changing, and because I know what it feels like to lose somebody that I truly love, that when I'm with someone in the now that I care about, that I love, that I'm close to, dating, whatever it is, I'm completely present with them the best that I can, because it might be gone. And instead of trying to hold on to something forever, as though it needs to be forever, I just appreciate it in the moment, knowing that one day it's going to be gone. And it could be in 50 years, it could be in 50 days, and it doesn't actually matter. Because just because something is perfect and meant to be does not mean it's meant to be forever. If you get caught on this idea of forever, you're probably going to miss out on what you actually have in front of you. So I welcome heartbreak. I open my heart up, and I say stomp on, destroy my heart, do whatever you need to do, because I'm not afraid of heartbreak anymore. I used to be afraid of it, because I used to think that I needed someone else to be fulfilled in myself. I used to think that I needed another person to actually feel good about who I was, but that wasn't true. And when you survive heartbreak, and when you actually realize that you have all the love you could ever need inside of yourself, and you have all the support and all that you need already here, well, then you can freely love. And then there's a new place, because love is like, to me, it's like two categories. And when I talk back to my old roommate that I was in love with, and it was terrible and a bad situation because I just got lost in the whole thing, I saw two loves. And I actually wrote, maybe I'll try to release it soon, but I wrote and recorded an album with my friend called Two Loves, and we just recorded it live. And it was all about the difference between the true love and the false love. And the false love is like this needy love. It's this love of attachment. It's this love of like, I need someone to be fulfilled, right? Which means that we have an idea of who they need to be for us, and we don't show up that way. We were upset and we let down and all this stuff. And then there's the true love. And the true love exists just in moments. The true love is just there. It's just this unconditional love. And it took me a long time to actually see what unconditional love was. When you can just truly love someone, no matter who they are, just in the moment, because you appreciate them for all that they are. And you appreciate every single second that you have together, because it's a freaking blessing to be alive. So when you're sitting with someone that you love, and you're cuddling with them, and you're holding them, and you're just present in that moment, and you're just like, this is everything, well, you feel that in such a way. It's almost like taking an energetic picture where it's there with you forever. If you're doing the same thing, except you're worried about losing them, and you're scared they're going to go away, and you're not going to have this, well, then you're just going to be missing out on that moment. And then when it's gone, it's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. But it doesn't mean that when I go through heartbreak, or when I go through a breakup, and I went through a breakup not that long ago, and it was freaking devastating for me, honestly. Post marriage, I already had dealt with that one, which was divorce, and that's I can't even explain what that was like. But just talking about this relationship after going through a breakup was like, oh man, it sucked. It was devastating, and it was so sad, and especially because we like really loved each other so much, but we just knew we couldn't be together because of distance and where our lives were and all these things. And it was so sad, but I allowed myself to feel it, and that was the difference. I was okay with it. It's almost a weird thing being really sad. Some days I would sit in bed for 4 or 5 hours and just like stare out the window and just feel and just be sad and just miss this person, just in that state of just like, oh damn, wow. But when I allowed myself to feel it, when I allowed myself to grieve the process, well, then I could actually start to work through those things and have appreciation for what we did have, and realize that in the next relationship, it's like I need to take anything in life like completely presently, because you don't know when things are going to be gone. And when you're in something and you're wrapped up in it, it seems like it's forever, but then suddenly it's gone. And it's like, okay, well, was I present in that situation, or was I completely missing out in the moment? It's taken me a long time to be able to really be present in that, and also be okay with heartbreak, because there's this wild thing that happens in certain cultures. We kind of have a weird, I think in America, a weird relationship to death. And in a way, breaking up with someone it's like a death. There's a grieving process when you lose someone that you love that dies, but also just lose someone that you love that's not in your life anymore. It's a grieving process, and to realize, so there's these cultures where when somebody dies, they spend a couple days just immense grieving, but then also celebration, because it's like they love that person so much that like that sadness is such a beautiful thing. That pain that you feel is beautiful because you know that you had so much love for that person. And when you know things are impermanent, but you can also celebrate them and appreciate them and grieve them at the same time, or at the same time, different times, something completely huge shifts. And I'm not trying to say that I'm perfect. I still have a lot of things that I'm processing and working through in relationships and dynamics and loss and love. But it's just made things much more fluid, I should say. Not easy. Life is not about being easy, I don't believe. But I think what's really shifted for me is just being able to sit with those feelings. I used to avoid them. I used to try to hide from them. But to be able to sit with that sadness and feel heartbreak, it's like to be able to really like lie in bed and just feel the pain and not think why, this is terrible, this can't be, but just feel it. Like, oh my God, I love that person so goddamn much that I feel this just bullet in my chest. I feel this heart-wrenching. And how wonderful it is to feel anything at all, So if you have loved and you've lost, you probably know some of this. And it's it's okay. I still grieve people that I love and lost every day. And I'm developing a healthier relationship to grief because it allows me to just be present with it, It allows me to sit with those things in a way where I can have appreciation and acceptance for the pain too. Because pain and sadness, they're just feelings. They're fleeting. They're not always there. It's the avoiding them that makes it worse. It's the thinking that they shouldn't be there, that you shouldn't be sad, or that, oh God, I hate this feeling. I hate feeling feelings and all this stuff. No. To me, that's how you become invincible. It's how you become unmesswithable. To actually allow yourself to feel those things and to make peace with them and to be okay with them and to let them in. Let the heartbreak in. Because that means you've loved so much. Open your heart up to whatever is. And if that thing is then gone, at least you gave it your all. And you fully experienced it. And there's something else waiting for you that's even beyond, perhaps. So if you're going through a heartbreak right now, or you've been struggling with one for a while, sit with it. Just be present with it. Realize that you're open. You're growing pains. You love someone, and maybe they're gone, but they'll always be there with you.